Thank you very much for staying on and welcome back. Now, 3 banks have been forced to turn to the Bank of Ghana for some emergency financial support to meet their daily operations. The move has been influenced by what can be termed as panic withdrawals that have hit some local banks. There's more in this report.
For some of these banks, they had to turn to the central bank for support because they were having problems in meeting customer demands like deposit withdrawals and clearance of checks. Sources say the request for liquidity support was sent to the regulator and it has been approved. This is to ensure that the said banks do not go down, especially at a time there are reports some of them are not in good positions and it is fueling these withdrawals. For some of these local banks, the development has gotten to a state that requires some immediate intervention by government or the Bank of Ghana to prevent them from collapse. Joy Business understands that apart from these 3 banks, another big bank in the country was also recently forced to turn to the Bank of Ghana for some emergency liquidity support. Sources say looking at the way things are panning out, the regulator before the end of this month may be forced to take some drastic action or look at some other proposals on the table. This includes a possible merger of about 4 commercial banks.
All right, so we'll be updating you on this particular development in the course of the bulletin. Now, in a related development, the Republic Bank says it has met the new minimum capital requirement ahead of the December deadline. According to a statement issued by the bank, it has even crossed the required 400 million CD capital after raising 255 million CDs from its shareholders in a rights issue. Now, away from that, 50% of knowledge gained by youngsters must include exposure to happenings within the financial space. This is coming from CEO of Combat Impressions, Albert Okran, who has been speaking to Joy Business, the ongoing Teenpreneurship Conference at the Ghana India Kofi Annan Training Center in ICT. According to him, the conference opens up avenues for young persons to sharpen their entrepreneurial skills.
From the reports you are reading from the World Economic Forum, the structure of jobs will change completely from the year 2020 and beyond. In fact, it started already. So we look at Silicon Valley, we look at what other countries are doing, and we see it's because they've been bold enough to empower young people, especially in the area of technology. But we also are mindful that the formal educational curriculum spends little time exposing children to themes like this. So the idea behind this conference is to provide that extra 50% that is not taught within the formal educational setup. And in this particular conference, our focus is largely on technology, areas like robotics, app development, animation, filmmaking, themes and areas that normally they wouldn't find in a formal lecture room. Finding your talent and your skill and developing them. These must be themes that must be introduced at the primary level, not in the same way they'll be taught at the university and secondary level, but in a practical way, almost like fun that the children can engage. And because they've been exposed so early, they will end up achieving far more than we have done, because these are themes that we found out much later after university, but they can engage with them earlier and do big things for the country and for the continent.
Meanwhile, Charles IT has been engaging some young and clever participants at the Teenpreneurship Conference and has come through with this report.
Whenever we're talking about entrepreneurship, one thing that many of us might think about is grown-up people, university graduates with complicated degrees and what have you. But this is not the case right here at the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center for Excellence, because I'm currently going to be interacting with youngsters who, of course, have wild dreams of taking over the world in their own stead, with practical knowledge on the financial landscape and, of course, knowledge in their own stead in the various endeavors that they wish to engage themselves in. It's all about the Teenpreneurship Conference, of which they have been partakers of, and we get to speak to some of them with some wild ideas about what we should be expecting from them in the near future. And I'm going to be starting with you, Daniel. First of all, you have been here. How do you see the entire Teenpreneurship Conference?
It's very good. It makes you, it tells you to plan your future well, to make sure your future is good, take step by step, and to put businesses together.
Wow.
So that's why we are here today, to learn about businesses and how to grow up our future.
That's great. That's great. But one thing about this conference is that you get to mention what you want to do in future and the reasons why you want to do it and how you could get there. What do you want to do in future?
I want to develop my own bank.
You want to develop your own bank? Wow, that's interesting. One thing that we all know about banks is that currently the issues about most of them collapsing and everything. Have you been monitoring?
Yes. Like the business, they have to manage their banks well, know what they use the money for. Like most of my family, some of them are bankers. That's why I like it. So they need to manage the bank well, have ministers to like manage some of the bank. So if the government can help them manage the bank well, because some people take loans without paying back with interest and all this thing, that brings the bank down.
Daniel, how old are you?
I'm 13.
You're 13 years old, and you're giving me all this filler. Well, that's very interesting. I'm going to get back to you, Daniel. He wants to be a banker in future, and he's been talking extensively about issues that are crippling the banking industry. Innovative ideas that he has. But let me rake in Jessica. She's also a partaker of this teampreneurship conference to help us understand what exactly she also is gathering and what she wants to do in future. Jessica, you have been part of the teampreneurship conference. Any takeaways?
I think it's very educative and very good for youngsters who want to develop their minds, set their minds on their careers and the rest. So I think it's very educative.
When all of you were given the chance to mention what you want to do in future and whatnot, you said you wanted to be a trillionaire, you wanted to be a realtor, and also a mother of 4. I remember very well, a mother of 4. Now, let's talk about the real estate industry, because you want to be a realtor. What moved you to take up this role in the future?
You see, there are lots of slums in Ghana, and the flooding that has been happening, it just shows me that the houses are not being built well, there are no gutters, no pathways for the river, the water to flow and the rest. So it gives me this sort of motivation to build quality houses for Ghana and for people to stay in.
But you know the one thing that has to do, because you have so many houses, but the issues is it's got to do with costs. How concerned are you about the high costs involved in acquiring a home in Ghana today?
Well, I think it's not very, it varies. It's too, people can't, I want to make houses affordable so everyone can get access to all the houses. So there's some of the houses are just too expensive. So I plan to vary it. There will be expensive houses and then there will be the affordable ones for the people who can get.
Wow. How old are you, Jessica?
15.
15. So, Mr. Banker, Daniel, you heard Jessica. In the future, you're going to own your own bank. Would you give her the loan she needs to embark on her project?
We can give loans, but she has to pay interest.
she has to pay interest.
Yes.
So without the interest, you will not give her the loan.
We can give her the loans. She knows what she can give us back, so we can give her the interest so that the bank cannot collapse easily.
Wow, that's very interesting, Daniel. You're going to be a very interesting banker in the future. But we cannot do without issues of technology, because of course that's what's driving a society today and businesses in that regard. Whilst I was having the chat, this gentleman was on his laptop, on his iPad, I should say, just tapping on his tablet. But we get to talk to him shortly. And you did tell me before I started the interaction that you had wanted to be an animator. So everything we're doing here, you could convert to cartoons.
Oh yes.
Why do you want to be an animator?
Because I really want to make a difference, because in the Ghanaian world we say cartoons and animations are the same, but they are not the same.
They are not the same?
Yes.
What's the difference?
Cartoons is normally made for children, just for fun. Animations like Attack on Titans, which is my favorite. Sometimes they convert it to movies. It's with that you can actually edit some of the movies in Ghana.
So have you started any projects in animation so far, or you intend to have them?
I tend to have them, but I've started with drawing. Yes.
How do you see the animation industry in Ghana? Do you think it's something that you could be successful in?
Oh yes.
And how old are you?
I'm 13.
You're 13 years old. So by the time you're 21, we should be seeing you in Silicon Valley.
Oh yes.
That's great. That's great. So you did hear, what's the name again?
Selom Gan.
Selom talking to us about he wanting to be an animator. But we've heard from a banker, we've heard from a realtor, highly clever young people in the wake of the Teenpreneurship Conference here at the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center for Excellence. It's been very amazing, the kind of thoughts they have in mind, the kind of dreams they have to share, and the kind of projects that they wish to embark on in the nearest future. It's all about entrepreneurship. It's all about the need for them to attach technology to their skills and the verve to achieve what they ought to achieve. We've heard from Albert Okran on this, and we get to speak to them in the future. For Joy Business, I'm Charles ITA reporting.
Thank you very much, Charles, for that report. Now, the World Bank says it will continue to help Ghana deal with this infrastructural gap through government, though government has been touting the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. World Bank Country Director Henry Kerali made the call at the Urban Road Mobility and Road Safety Workshop here in Accra.
Ghana loses 2,000 people every year on our roads. So this is an important issue that needs to be addressed by everybody. And the World Bank is supporting programs. In Ghana, we have road safety programs, we have road infrastructure programs, and we have other types of programs that are all designed to reduce the number of injuries and fatalities on the roads.
Are you worried? You've been in Ghana for some time. Are you worried about the number of unfunctioning traffic lights on our roads?
That is only one aspect. Traffic lights, poor driver behavior, poor conditions of roads, poor conditions of vehicles, all of these contribute to poor road safety. So it is not just traffic lights, it goes way beyond that to include several other factors. And it needs the commitment of the professionals. It needs better behavior on roads. It also needs the commitment at political level, at administrative level, and financially to try to come together to solve this problem.
Also live on the marketplace, let's turn attention to some petroleum stories. And prices of petroleum products have witnessed a marginal increase at the pumps by some oil marketing companies. Checks by Joy Business show that the increase took effect from Sunday morning. But what has occasioned this particular increase, especially when on 3 separate instances within the last 2 months, these OMCs have failed to reduce prices as expected? George Rafi has more.
Business calculations show that prices have gone up by almost 2%. This should mean that a litre of petrol, which used to be sold at 4 Ghana cedis 85 pesos, is now going for about 4 cedis 95 pesos, translating into 22 Ghana cedis 27 pesos per gallon. Diesel is going for a similar amount in terms of litre and a gallon. Our checks at the various service stations within our reach shows that most of the big players like Guel, Total and Shell have all reviewed their prices. According to the importers of these products, the increase is as a result of the marginal adjustment in price of crude oil on the international market as well as development in US. So following these adjustments, if you were spending about 109 Ghana cedis 12 pesos for 5 gallons for your vehicle in a week, then you will now need 111 Ghana cedis 37 pesos. This should mean that your weekly budget for fuel has now gone up by 2 cedis 25 pesos. However, looking at the fact that we have over 90 oil marketing companies, it is likely that not all the firms have indeed adjusted their prices by the about 2% margin. Some industry watchers are still questioning the basis of this increase, especially when most of the oil marketing companies failed to adjust their values when prices should have gone down significantly in about 3 separate instances in June and July. Or looking at all these developments, one may ask whether the pricing aspect of the deregulation policy is actually working.
Meanwhile, Executive Secretary of COPEC Ghana, Duncan Amwa, is reiterating his call on government to deal with the cedi's depreciation, which is a major factor affecting prices in the downstream sector. He also calls for a national dialogue to take a second look at the deregulation policy and some of the issues associated with it.
In 2 other instances, prices should have gone down. The OMCs did not respond.
Now they are responding. For you, let me first get your views on this increment.
If you listen to some of the OMCs, they should have gone up last 2 weeks. They didn't, because according to them, they wanted to vary and see if the city would do any better. Unfortunately, per what they argue, the city also seemed to have done a bit poorly the past 2 weeks. And so what we are seeing now is more of the city's performance than even the international market figures being as bad. We are saying that the Ghanaian consumer cannot continue to bear the brunt of the city's performance and the international market factors combined. If you look at other oil-producing countries like the United States and even Nigeria, who may be producing more than we do anyway, prices are a bit lower than we have. And we are saying that we may have to tinker with certain ideas and possibilities, and for which we are calling for the national dialogue. The ideas we are looking at proposing to government: one, should government throw in some of the windfall it generates when world market prices go up, on the international markets, because we are a producing country? Should we have the Bank of Ghana also agree with some of these petroleum importers a certain, exchange rate, such that the speculation bit within the forex, trade, the pricing bit could also be minimized or taken care of. We think that something could be done, at least, if not to arrest pricing, to sustain and maintain prices.
Think that the stabilization levy should also kick in terms of trying to cushion prices, because that could have also helped.
We think that the stabilization levy should go all together, because at the end of the day, you are taking monies from me to stabilize prices. Unfortunately, prices are even way higher. It should go completely. We don't think that you should continue to charge me to stabilize fuel prices. Even when prices have gone above 22 cedis, you are still charging for stabilization. We think that it should go completely. We also think that the discussion on even special petroleum tax would have to be reactivated.
All right, so let's stay on this particular issue quite a little longer, and we're getting in touch with energy expert Kwedu Poku to explore the ideas of coming up with a national dialogue on this deregulation issue to review the policy as it were. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace.
All right, good afternoon to your viewers.
All right, so I believe you were listening to what COPEC was advocating. Now, do you subscribe to this COPEC's opinion? And if so, which way should it go, and what should we be seeing to be reviewing at this stage?
Well, COPEC wants government to come to the table to look at initiatives. Now, if you look at some of the things that Duncan talked of Bank of Ghana coming in to look at exchange rate. This exchange rate was the very cause that affected debt, where Bank of Ghana now giving importers a certain rate in forex, and the differential was borne by government. Now, government went in that policy for some time and realized that it's now having to, in the future, subsidize, because when there is a difference in what Bank of Ghana needs to the importer, the government has to pay the difference. So we've tried that approach, and it didn't work. People talk about a scenario where we have to look at building refineries. Those things are long-term infrastructure. Would it solve? We don't know, because if you are to have a refinery in Ghana, it would only give a competitive edge to the people who buy the refinery in Ghana. Because if I am buying fuel from home, I'm only going to have about $10 to $50 per metric ton differential compared to the person who imports this fuel from abroad. So it will bring some level of competition, but would it give Ghana total decrease in prices? I don't think so. So I don't see what we'll be dialoguing about, but it's always worth thinking.
Now, but Mr. Poku, so the deregulation policy was actually set in to allow players in the downstream sector to fix their own prices. But, surprisingly, it is turned the other side, and consumers are really suffering the bane of that policy. Now, looking at the fact that the key pricing determinants are the crude oil prices on the world market and the cedi depreciation, the predominant factors, what then should we be doing, or what then should government be doing about this particular issue?
The only thing that government has control over is the price to the dollar depreciation. If government puts in the right policies, that will provide the city. You will realize that today, if the dollar goes down, and we are looking at 5 cedis to the dollar, the price at the pump is fully locked. But now that price is around 4.8, we can have a government does not control the international market. What we control is the cedi to the dollar, which government has a control over. So the taxes, some people have said that, so why don't the tax? We want big infrastructure development, and at the rate at which we want to protect the government, it makes it very difficult for government to see the price build-up. So my only solution is to strengthen the city, and if the city comes down, the price of the petrol will also come down.
So you don't think at this stage, reducing the numerous taxes within the price build-up would also, make an impact in prices, in reducing prices at this stage?
It will, but for how? We saw what happened about 4 or 5 months ago. OPEC went issue, and government used the price floor. And between the time that was decreased, the increase in the forex has negated that same. So then we're back to how often will government use taxes, and the cedi to the dollar will now erode these reductions. So it's really not the best using those taxes, the very taxes that have made need to increase revenue.
All right, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Kwaju Puku. He's an energy expert. He's been sharing his thoughts contrary to the views of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, which thinks that there should be a national dialogue to actually see to the review of the deregulation policy as well as other issues to help cushion petroleum prices or the impact of petroleum prices on consumers. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Many thanks for your company. My name is Emmanuel Abwaji. Good afternoon.